Vernon Mullins has been the sole doctor of Virgin River for several decades, having moved there after getting frustrated with the bureaucracy of big city hospitals. Due to his ability and competence as a doctor, the town came to depend on him. He would even go so far as to broker peace with the local wheat farm so the residents of the town would be safe. In his twilight years, he is set in his ways and is resistant to change, making it difficult for Mel to tolerate him when she arrives as a nurse to help him lighten the load. An addition to the clinic facilitated by his former wife and mayor of Virgin River, Hope. Over the seasons, his rigid ways are broken down, allowing others to enter his sphere. This leads him to rekindling his romance with Hope, having navigated many challenges, both personally and with the town. He and Mel build a strong relationship. Vernon comes to see her as a daughter and she in turn sees him as a father figure. In the midst of this personal transformation, his grandson Denny reaches out to him. A grandson he did not know about as his college love kept her pregnancy a secret from him. As their relationship grows, Vernon learns he is diagnosed with Huntington's, making their time together all the more valuable as a result. Before long, he himself is diagnosed with a degenerative eye condition that will slowly make him blind. This leads to a crisis in his core identity, where he will have to give up his role as a doctor sooner rather than later. One day, enjoying fishing with Denny, they relate to each other about their respective futures. Denny does what he can to stave off the effects of Huntington's for as long as he can, and Vernon, now in the position of a patient, looks for an outlet to help him reorient himself in this new position.
And if I'm not Doc anymore, who the hell am I?
Grandpa. You're my grandpa.
This revelation prompts him to reevaluate his life, placing more importance on the lives of those closest to him, and taking treatments to help him prolong his eyesight for as long as possible, making his relationships with Denny, Mel, and Hope that much richer as a result. As the war against Morgoth ignited, elves sailed to Middle-earth to repel his evil. However, the war lasted longer than anyone expected, Galadriel looking over the grave aftermath of each battle. Following Morgoth's defeat, Sauron, his lieutenant, takes over, and her brother is charged with killing him. Though was killed and branded by Sauron, Galadriel takes up his task and devotes nearly a millennium to this endeavor. In her most recent mission, half her company is killed along the journey, and those left are pushed beyond the physical limits when navigating the frozen wastelands of the north without ample time for rest. Going months beyond the scope of their mission, the efforts seemed to be rewarded when they found a stronghold, only for the remainder of the company to nearly be killed by a troll. Not thinking of her men, only wanting to push forward, they refuse. In Lindon, she speaks to her friend Elrond, and after exchanging pleasantries, she proclaims she wants fresh troops to march north. Despite being the leader of the northern armies, Elrond refuses because she disobeyed orders, repeatedly putting her men at risk and has had no results to show for it, failing in her only task as a soldier, finding Sauron. Later that day, King Gil-galad announces Galadriel and her men would return to Valinor, a great honor she wishes to refuse. Speaking to Elrond once more at the memorial for the fallen, she is adamant in continuing her search. Elrond breaks her down till she accepts her gift to return.
Put up your sword.
Without it, what am I to be?
What you have always been. My friend.
Comparatively, both characters are devoted to a profession they performed for a significant portion of their lives, and have both been brought to an existential crisis as a result of a shift forced upon them. In both instances, it is someone close to them who helps in shifting their perspective by recontextualizing what their purpose is. Vernon has this conversation in Season 5, after a lot of time was spent developing and progressing his character from someone devoted to his work to someone who values and cares for the people closest to him, a mindset he had been struggling with, leading to this point being far more poignant as a result. The fact the solution is provided for him by Denny reinforces the importance in the relationships built over the course of the show. Galadriel's conversation occurs halfway into the pilot episode. A dual negative as time is not taken in building an original character, and the version on screen is antithetical to the books, making her a stranger to fans, rendering this conversation devoid of narrative prominence. That is not to say having said conversation so early cannot work, the conversation between Leto and Paul Atreides in Caladan in Dune being an example of it being executed well.
What if I'm not Dad? Not what? The future of House Atreides. You'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son.
There is also dissonance in between what the show tells us and what it shows us regarding her character, presenting her as if she is in the right when the visuals show Elrond is right. She is reckless, which in itself is nothing bad, as it can be the basis of a character arc in the making. However, she is reckless with her men, not caring if they lived or died. She has failed in her goal of searching Middle-earth for Sauron for nearly a millennium. Middle-earth is large, but if she cannot find Sauron after a millennium, she is either inept or he is not there. In fact, given the context of Season 2, had Galadriel committed to go into Valinor, Sauron would have either been lost at sea or lived the rest of his life as a smith in Númenor, meaning all of Middle-earth's misfortunes till Frodo destroys the One Ring could have been averted had Galadriel listened to Elrond, which is impressive. Finally, the conversation here does not change her in any way. One show is capable of using such conversation meaningfully, propelling a character down a different path while being in line with who he has been till this point in the narrative, displaying how deft writing is able to utilize characters in a variety of ways, building them up, developing the theme, and progressing the story as a whole. The other is Rings of Power.